it's Enigma, and today I want to talk to you about, you know what, hang on, let me pick it up real quick. I want to talk to you about this little device. This is a 2015 MacBook Air. Just like how I ended up fixing and modding my old iPod, I decided to take a bit of a gamble and grab myself an old MacBook and modify it. Especially since, well, when it comes to affordable devices, realistically speaking, a lot of these devices that are coming out nowadays, specifically right now I'm talking about the MacBook Neo, realistically you're not getting a lot of value for it, especially since those things are designed to not last very long. That's why I decided to take a deeper dive into the last years of, well, back when these were a lot more repairable, and I decided to get my hands on this MacBook, not only to show off that you can get your hands on something really good for a really good price, but with a little bit of patience and tinkering, you can get something that is a lot better than what you can get on the market right now. This device, I ended up getting it off of eBay for $70, and it is, well, it's one of the last Intel powered MacBooks, but it does have a few drawbacks. One of them involves, well, the design. This is a very common mod that you're gonna see in a lot of older MacBooks, but I'm gonna turn it around so I can show it off. As you can see, right here, I ended up literally taking off the back panel and drilling holes right where the fan usually is. Now, this is very obvious, but I don't understand how Apple's products don't do that. By default, there are vents on this side that just draw in air and pass it to the fan to keep it cool. But the problem with that is that by the time it reaches the fan, the air is very hot. So to offset it, so this is a very common mod to do as well. You take apart the, well, you remove the back plates. You drill some holes right around the section and where the fan sits, and it introduces colder air into the fan. This way, it keeps the MacBook running a lot cooler and therefore reducing the, well, the amount of times that it's going to crash on you, because a computer is always going to crash on you when it overheats. Now, outside of that, I ended up doing a few more modifications, like replacing the battery inside of this. I ended up getting a new one from iFixit, and originally inside of this MacBook there was a, I believe, a 128 gigabyte SSD in this thing, which for modern day use, it's not a lot of storage. Now, the only extra SSD that I have, especially since prices for these devices are going up, I had to work with what I had, and I had a 258 gigabyte SSD, which I also ended up having to buy an adapter for about $10 on Amazon, and just hook those two together and put it inside of this thing. Which also leads me to the other modification that I did on this thing, and that is I got rid of macOS. This came with High Sierra installed on it, but I did not want to do that. I did not want to use it. Now, I could have used Open Core Legacy Patcher to put the most recent version of macOS, but I'm not the biggest fan of Mac, so instead I decided to put a Linux distro in this. Originally, I was going to be installing Linux Mint on here, but I decided against it and installed Zorin OS instead. Zorin OS is a very popular Linux distro, especially towards older Macs like this, because it makes them run a lot better. So I'm just going to turn this thing on and show off what I have in here. All right. Booting up, well, the camera isn't going to be able to do too much, and I can't really set up the screen capture just yet because I still haven't gotten a capture card. But right off the bat, you can see that I ended up changing my taskbar so that it's up on the top. This is just my personal aesthetic. This is what I think is pretty cool. But right away, this works very well. In fact, I have had zero issues with this as soon as I installed Zorin OS onto it. Now, I ended up getting the core version of Zorin. I didn't get the pro version because, well, realistically, I'm not going to be using this for a lot of stuff. If anything, I'm probably going to use this for scripting as well as for makeshift teleprompter. Now, there are a few drawbacks to this, and this is something that I should probably mention right off the bat. As soon as you get this thing set up, and as soon as you do the modification for the holes on the bottom, the first program that you should install is one called Auto CPU Freak. So what Auto CPU Freak does is it's pretty much the program that helps you control your fan speeds. And not only that, it also helps keep the temperature of the computer in check. And let me tell you, installing this thing was a big headache. I had to go through very different versions from the documentation, and it wasn't up until the end in which I had to install this directly through Git and GitHub that it was finally able to work, which is something else that I should mention as well. Zorin OS is built on Ubuntu, which is a different Linux distro, and most of the documentation that you're going to be needing for Zorin OS, you can also look up from Ubuntu and use that documentation as well, because they are very similar. In fact, they're pretty much the exact same thing. It's just that one is a lot more user-friendly than the other, even though they're both user-friendly. Now, if you do decide to do this, if you decide to get your hands on a MacBook Air from 2015 and just modify this, not only are you going to have to do this, but there's also a few things that I should mention. So this version of the MacBook Air that I have is an 8GB model for RAM, and the RAM speeds are DDR3. So do keep that in mind. You're not going to get the super fast speeds that you're going to get with a modern day computer, but it is still usable if you're just going to be using this to just do some small bits and pieces here and there, just browsing around on YouTube, writing your scripts. Heck, you can even install a program called Foliate, and if you have a big e-library for your books, your comics, everything, you can use this to view all of that stuff as well. And another thing that you should know is that not every program that runs natively on Mac and Windows is gonna run on here. So you're either gonna have to run it through a web app, or you're gonna have to find an alternative, which in my opinion isn't that big of a deal, because most of the programs that I'm using anyways run natively on all systems, so I can easily make the switches that I need to. Well, for most of them at least. But I gotta say, doing this was a lot of fun. This was a really cool project, and it is something that I highly recommend that everybody does, especially since, well, these computers to this day, they're still standing strong after close to what, 10, 11 years they were discontinued. Apple says that those computers are outdated, they're never going to be able to be used, but here we are as consumers and as tinkerers able to just get older computers up and running, and that says a lot. And if you don't want to install Linux, that's totally fine. Like I said, you can use Open Core Legacy Patcher and install the latest version of Mac OS. And if you don't, and you want to just completely gut Mac OS, Zorin OS is a really good option. And as I just mentioned, there's also Linux Mint, there's also Ubuntu. You have a lot of different distros to choose from if you want to do this to 2015 MacBook Air. And not just a MacBook Air, you can easily get your hands on a ThinkPad. You can get your hands on any old Dell Optiplex, like those thin computers. You can do that and just install Linux, and you're gonna have a device that's gonna last you a lot longer than you think, with proper maintenance, of course. I mean, heck, the only reason why I did it was because I already fixed my old iPod. I already flashed it with Rockbox, and now that I have this MacBook Air, it kind of feels like I ended up creating a better version of the Apple ecosystem. There are a few things that I still have to set up, like Zorin Connect, which is KDE Connect. That pretty much just makes it easier to, it's a AirDrop alternative. That's the simplest way that I can describe it. But that's for another time. In the meantime, thank you so much for watching this video. I really hope you all enjoyed it. If you did, leave a like and also subscribe to my channel and turn on those post notifications so that you never miss out on a video or a live stream. And if you would like to help support the channel, check out buymeacoffee.com/Enygma. Links for everything will be down in the description box below. And as always, this is Sandy, a shooting star, signing out.